So we're here at the Retail Media Roundtable at the Retail Media Impact Summit in Amsterdam. This is the end of our day. So forgive us if we're delusional, but we have been in a very fascinating event. And I am so excited to be joined by Tami. Tami and I worked together a long time ago, so it's a small industry, and I'm very happy to be reunited with her. Tami Harrigan is the VP of Business Development at Appsflyer. Tami, do you mind introducing yourself and telling us a bit more about Appsflyer?
Yes, it's lovely to be here with you today, Yara. It's been a long time in our journey together, and now we're in completely different places. Now I'm at Appsflyer. Appsflyer is really well known as the market leader of mobile measurement. And so sometimes people have a hard time connecting mobile measurement into data collaboration and commerce media. And so Appsflyer has made its kind of reputation and market leadership being a trusted and neutral space where we're already processing our 14,000 customers around the globe first-party data in order to enable mobile measurement and helping them to understand which media sources actually perform most effectively and efficiently for their mobile business. And as we see kind of the growth in retail media and commerce media, many of our existing customers are moving into that space as well. If you think about financial commerce media, if you think about quick commerce and the rise of retail media coming through a lot of those mobile-first, digital-first channels, our customers were already headed here. And they also need a place in which they can fully trust and be transparent and drive measurement for their retail media programs. And that's exactly what we offer them with the Appsflyer data collaboration platform, built on clean room technology to be trusted, independent, neutral, and ultimately be able to help our customers be able to illustrate the value of their first-party data when it comes to the media investment.
Great. I definitely learned a lot about Appsflyer and clean rooms from you over the last, I want to say, couple of weeks leading up to this and today in particular. What session did you enjoy the most, and where did you feel like you got a good nugget?
Well, I certainly took a lot of notes during Daniel's plenary session, the first session this morning when we were talking to the IAB's chief economist, who was sharing the growth of offsite media and that the trajectory of offsite media growth across Europe is over 40%, which I found really exciting because a lot of what data collaboration really powers is the ability to activate in offsite channels and govern your data and control that data, but then also the ability to actually measure it once it's been activated and provide that transparency back to the brand.
So I'm sure you go to a lot of events, especially in the US. What stood out to you as a unique European opportunity or challenge?
I mean, certainly the various levels of growth and privacy regulations across the European market are just an added layer. In the US, you're opt-out. In Europe, you're opt-in. And then you have the additional challenges of DMA across Europe. So you can take a massive market like the US and apply kind of a single strategy across it, although we are having fragmentation and privacy across states. But in the European market, it's just far more complicated. And so that really stood out to me today.
And in terms of kind of the main strengths of on-site retail media today, how do you see them complementing opportunities offered by those off-site opportunities that you were excited about?
Yeah. Well, I think as was pointed out today in the session that I led around debunking clean room myths, almost any retail media, so we're talking about, truly like a retailer who is selling a product to a consumer, they're going to start with Onsite. It is the highest margin part of their business, but is also probably the lowest volume area that they have in order to actually reach consumers. And at some point, when their retail media proposition has reached a certain level of maturity, naturally they're seeking growth outside of their on-site media. And off-site really presents that opportunity. It's, almost endless when it comes to the amount of opportunity that you can use to take your existing audience and reach it somewhere else in a different context with different goals, and then still drive that consumer back to your on-site experience. Now, if you think about it from a different perspective, which is commerce media, and we see this often actually in APAC, for example, commerce media actually starting with Offsite first. And so that is a really different dynamic than what we see here in Europe.
So when you say commerce media, can you walk us through some of the providers you're working with? Because we all have different definitions of what commerce media is.
Yeah, I would say commerce media is just a very all-encompassing way to say that you have first-party data in which you are leveraging it to build and target audiences with the right context, and then be able to deliver an outcome against that. And so it might be financial media. So this could go into the category of like a Western Union or a PayPal. This could go into the category of quick commerce, like Wolt and DoorDash. This could or Grab and APAC. This could go into travel, so like airline providers, AirAsia and APAC, or United with their connective proposition in the United States.
So you touched on they started off-site. How do you think they differ from traditional retail media otherwise?
I think that the risks are lower when you're talking about commerce media versus retail media because a retailer has supply, they have trade relationships all wrapped into this also media relationship now with their vendors and the brands that are endemic to their retail media business. There's so many more stakeholders that have to weigh in on what happens with the retail media buy. I was at an event with in the U.S. just a couple of weeks ago, and retail media entities were talking about how they've started to shift where they're taking the retail media sales team actually inside the same orgs as like the vendor buyer teams so that they could actually consolidate the way that they actually engage their main decision makers and not to confuse them and overwhelm them with too many people reaching out to them. And so going back to your original question, though, when you don't have kind of like inventory that you need to push, there's just a very different dynamic of like what that commerce media buy actually entails for the commerce media and for the advertiser.
You touched on what was probably the most difficult topic for me today, which is what traditional retailers are having to face. And we had a very interesting conversation with brands and retailers in the room trying to discuss how do traded media become more porous, if you will? Where is the conversion? And what does the organization need to look like for the budgets to either align or be completely separate? And I can tell you, not one person in the room had the same opinion. Yeah. It is such a hard topic. And I feel like until we solve that, especially in Europe, we're not going to get to the next barrier of growth of retail media. So that's something I'm very, very passionate about and also feel is very difficult to solve. If you were to sum up the event today, what would be the 3 takeaways you had?
Diverging opinions. You can hear in every session that each retail media network as well as brand that is kind of weighing in on whatever topic is at hand, there's differences in opinion. And that is, I think, challenging for the industry today because we're kind of building while we're kind of flying the plane, if you will. Yes. And so, brands have media investment at risk. Retailers have high growth targets. And so these incentives need to come together at some point. I really believe measurement is a really key to unlock kind of some of these diverging opinions because it ultimately all comes down to the fact that no one has a single way to communicate performance to one another. And that is, at the end of the day, what a retail media promises to deliver to their advertisers is outcomes. So that's number one. The second kind of takeaway, I would say, in Europe, in-store retail media is such a bigger component of the existing strategy. It's very different than what I see in the United States, in LATAM or APAC. And I'm really privileged that in my role, I get to see kind of in every market what they're doing. In Europe, I find this to be fairly unique in the sense of how much they've started with in-store and then gone to web and digital and now are considering off-site. And a lot of that is because of the constraints that GDPR, I think, has placed on the industry in this market.
Great. So would you be doing this with us again next year?
Yes, absolutely. It's I think one, it's really refreshing that it's not in London. I love London, but Amsterdam, it's just kind of got a smaller, more kind of, I think, communal feel. And so, yes, sign me up to come anywhere in continental Europe that isn't
Even
London.
the stairs up here?
Okay, the stairs were a little sketchy, I'll admit. I have heels on, and I was wondering whether or not these would be safe for small children. But, Amsterdam, I realize, built this building probably several hundred years ago. So I give them a pass.
Yeah, I was doing a walking tour and was told that some of the buildings are 700 and 800 years old. So, just bear that in mind.
Yeah, so just multiply what I said by 4.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us. And hopefully we'll see you next year.
Thank you.